I told you, I'm the champion of the world. All of it balls. I'm the king of the world. Hold it. I'm pretty. Hold it. You're not that pretty. I'm a bad man. Clay comes out to meet Lipton, and Lipton starts to retreat. If Lipton goes back in his father, he'll end up in the ringside seat. Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Experience is why I know I'll win. I said that I'm going to be a man. I'm going to fight it legally. If I lose it, I'm just going to jail. Who's the heavyweight champion of the world?
On January 17, 1942, an event occurred that changed the world. All-out war was raging in Europe and the Pacific, but it was not a battle that would have such an impact on the future. It was a simple birth in Louisville, Kentucky, for on that day in this small southern town, a man was born who would alter the course of sports, media, and social commentary in the 20th century.
I must be the greatest.
He would be known as the Louisville Lip, Mighty Mouth, and in his own words, the greatest of all time. Words that he lived up to not only in his professional career, but in his personal life as well. He is the one, the only, the champ, Muhammad Ali. Born to proud parents, Cassius and Odessa Clay, there was little indication that this, their first child, whom they dubbed Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., would one day not only challenge the finest fighters in the world, but the world itself. A precocious but polite child, young Cassius was raised as a God-fearing Baptist in the oldest of Southern traditions. It wasn't until the age of 12 that the young boy had any inkling of the destiny that lay ahead. In October of 1954, Clay and a friend rode their bicycles to the Columbia Auditorium, which was hosting the Louisville Home Show. Spending their afternoon looking at the wares of various African-American merchants and gorging themselves on the free popcorn and candy, neither boy had any idea that this afternoon would change history. When the boys had had their fun and their fill of the free food, they went outside to ride home, but Cassius's brand new red and white Schwinn was missing, stolen. It turned out to be the luckiest day of his life. Crying and upset, the young boy sought help from a policeman at the auditorium, Joe Martin. Clay told Martin that his bike had been stolen and that he was going to whoop whomever had taken it. Martin, who coached a boxing program for local youths, replied that if he was going to whoop someone, he had better learn how to fight first. It was the beginning of a long friendship and a glorious career. Martin coached his new protege through an impressive amateur career that included 108 bouts, 6 Kentucky Golden Gloves championships, and 2 national AAU titles before he was 18. This led to his 1960 appearance at the Olympics in Rome, where he won a gold medal for the United States. Though he would later throw that medal off a bridge and into the Ohio River in disgust at the fact that it hadn't changed his status as a black man living in the segregated South. Upon his return to the States, Clay turned pro with his first fight against Sunni Islam in Louisville. Winning the fight in 6 rounds, he set the stage for what was to come. Racking up an impressive string of victories, the young fighter had only one goal in mind: the heavyweight championship of the world. Though the racial climate in America was not favorable to blacks in the mid-20th century, with suffocating social policies aimed at maintaining the illusion and semblance of white superiority, things had been different in sports for quite some time. Boxing in particular had broken the color barrier early on with the rise of the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson. Johnson, who had begun boxing at the age of 16, had captured the heavyweight title from Tommy Burns in 1908. The idea that a black man could hold the heavyweight title so enraged whites that they began searching for what writer Jack London called a great white hope. London and the rest of the whites who were offended by Johnson's success soon found the man they were looking for in former champion Jim Jeffries. The two men finally met each other in the ring on July 4th, 1910. Johnson retained his title, but the price for it would be blood. Enraged whites went on a rampage after the fight, killing and injuring many blacks in the process. Johnson would continue to defend his title. However, the government soon charged him with a violation of the Mann Act, which made the transporting of women over state lines for immoral purposes illegal. And just who did they charge him with violating? His wife. Though he had broken down some of the racial barriers blocking his people from true success in American society, Johnson's flamboyance and in-your-face attitude made him very unpopular with the powers that be. Joe Louis, on the other hand, would emerge not only as a hero to black Americans, but as a champion admired and beloved by the entire world. He had begun boxing at the age of 10 when his family moved from Alabama to Detroit. By the age of 20, he had won his first Golden Gloves title. After turning pro, he won an impressive 12 bouts in his first year alone. It culminated with his defeat of former champion Primo Carnera before a Yankee Stadium crowd of 62,000. He seemed invincible, that is, until he met Max Schmeling. Schmeling, a German fighter with a reputation as a hard hitter, knocked Louis out in the 12th round on June 19, 1936. The loss would sting long after the fight was over. In 1937, Louis won the heavyweight title by defeating James Braddock with an 8th round knockout. After winning, Louis said simply, "I don't want anyone to call me champ until I beat Schmeling." He did just that in 1938. By this time, Schmeling stood as one of the most potent symbols of Adolf Hitler's racial philosophy. Although he was opposed to the Nazi regime and would ultimately help Jews escape the terror of the Holocaust by smuggling them out of war-torn Germany. His defeat at the hands of a black man, however, had the effect of making Louis a worldwide hero. That effect was made ever more powerful during World War II when Louis stepped out of the ring and into an army uniform, putting his career on hold in the defense of his country. When he returned to the ring after the war, he continued defending his title with the success that he had had before the conflict. When he retired in 1949, Joe Louis had been champion for over 12 years and had defended his title successfully more times than any man before or since. Years later, another young black fighter would carry on in the tradition of both Johnson and Louis, combining the flamboyance and outspokenness of one with the character and skill of the other. But Cassius Clay was not yet the heavyweight champion of the world. That prize was currently in the brutish hands of Sonny Liston, a tough bruiser of a fighter who saw the exuberant newcomer as little more than a loudmouth pain in the neck. Clay had started a harassment campaign against Liston, trying to force a fight, even going so far as to rent a bus and drive it to Sonny's house while calling him a coward and a bum through a bullhorn.
I'm gonna hurt you, I'm gonna hurt you, I'm gonna hurt you, you crazy, I'm gonna hurt you till you fight me.
The whole situation finally came to a head when Clay approached Liston at the Desert Inn in Las Vegas, where the champ was shooting craps and losing. Liston was in no mood to be harangued by the mouth from the south. Drawing a gun, Sonny fired, frightening his young tormentor into a hasty retreat. The gun was filled with blanks. But Cassius had gotten what he was after, a shot at the heavyweight title. During the build-up to the fight, Clay became a worldwide celebrity, mostly due to the fact that he never seemed to stop talking.
How about a prediction on what round you'll defeat Sonny Liston?
I predicted 8 on Sunni Islam, but he kept popping off about I talk too much, I need a glove down my throat, and it's going to take a doctor to cut it out, and he made me mad, and I had to cut that prediction from 8 rounds to 6 rounds. Liston must fall in 6. If you like to lose your money, then be a fool and bet on Sonny. But if you want to have a good day, then put it on Clay.
Sonny Liston is popping off his mouth and making all of these way-out statements, and I'm going to put an end to it February 25th, and I don't have to convince nobody now that I am great. They all know it. So many people here talk about Liston beating me. I'm unranked. It will be no match. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm going to make all of them shut their mouths.
Well, what about this grudge that's supposed to be going on?
Well, I don't know nothing about no grudge or nothing. All I want to do is fight and get this thing out of the way.
You just soon go right now? Is that right?
Now, ain't it? When I was at his home in Las Vegas, 5 policemen had to come with dogs to break us up.
For those of you who won't be able to see the Clay Liston fight, here's the 8th round exactly as it will happen. Clay comes out to meet Liston, and Liston starts to retreat. If Liston goes back in his father, he'll end up in the ringside seat.
Cassius was such a brilliant self-promoter that he once conned Life magazine into running a 5-page photo exclusive on his underwater training regimen. In truth, he had no such regimen. He couldn't even swim. He also posed for some publicity photos with 4 guys who had also just become a worldwide sensation the week before, although many in the American press said that they were just a passing fad. On February 25, 1964, Cassius Clay challenged Sunni Liston for the heavyweight championship of the world in Miami, Florida.
I don't care how small the ring is, I'll fight that chump in a telephone booth.
The fight was a sensation. Clay was the 8-to-1 underdog, and not many people gave him much of a chance of beating the more seasoned and hard-hitting Liston due to his lack of ring experience. Cassius, however, was not lacking in confidence. Showing all the skill and grace for which he would one day be remembered, the younger challenger dominated the older champion by simply outboxing him. After a grueling 6th round, Liston refused to answer the bell for the 7th, thus making Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. the new heavyweight champion of the world.
I was getting ready to take him in the 8th, as you can see, but the man stopped it just to keep from making me look so great. I say, now, give us that poetry on number 7. He wanted to go to heaven, so I took him in 7. You took him in 7. I am the king of the world. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Hold it, you're not that pretty. I'm a bad man. I shook up the world. Oh, I'm so great. Oh, I shook up. And what makes it so good, all of these hypocrites, you can't call it a fix. You can't call it a fix because I didn't stop the fight. The doctors had to stop it. Oh, I'm so pretty. I shook up the world. Right. Now, I'm through talking. Come on now. I'm through talking. Now, you write the result.
The new champ wasted no time causing controversy. He announced to a world still stunned by his unexpected upset that he had joined the Nation of Islam, a militant black Muslim group that was headed by Elijah Muhammad. He was also seen in the company of the group's most vocal frontman, the controversial and outspoken Malcolm X. White America was not sure what to make of their new champion, or of his new name, Muhammad Ali.
Cassius Clay is a name no more, is that right?
Yes, sir. It's Muhammad Ali. Muhammad means worthy of all praises, and Ali means most high in the Asian African language.
How long have you had the name?
Well, for about 2 weeks now.
Was anybody special gave you the name?
Yes, sir. My leading teacher, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Sunni Liston made 2 mistakes in his whole life. That's when he fought me the first time, and that's when he fights me the second time. How we gonna get him?
Gonna dance, float like a butterfly,
Butterfly and sting like a bee.
Ali gave Liston a rematch in May of the next year, knocking out the former champ in 2 minutes and 17 seconds in the very first round, and then taunting him with shouts of "Get up, you bum, get up and fight, no one's gonna believe this," as he lay prone on the canvas. It was his first title defense and a spectacular display of the skill with which he would dispatch rivals in years to come. But even with this easy victory over a worthy challenger, there would be controversy. Ali was right. People did have trouble believing in his talent. The punch with which he knocked Liston out became known as the shadow punch because it came so fast few in the crowd could claim to have seen it. And fast was becoming something of a staple in Ali's life. With all the speed that he displayed against an opponent in the ring, Ali courted and married beauty Sanji Roy 41 days after they met, and filed for divorce just 11 months later, claiming that Sanji had not lived up to the tenets of his faith, as she had promised to do before they were wed. But domestic problems aside, Ali was having a fairly good year.
Do you feel your recent marital difficulty will affect your career in any way?
No, that's nothing. That's out of the way. That'll soon be over. We'd rather not discuss it in public. It's in the courts. They'll handle it. But this is just another small problem that will soon be out of my way.
On November 22nd, he defended his title against former champ Floyd Patterson. Patterson had fought Sunni Liston prior to the Liston-Clay fight in an attempt to reclaim his heavyweight title for a 3rd time. Having already had 2 reigns as world heavyweight champ, Floyd Patterson was in a class all by himself. But then again, the new champ was no shrinking violet. Patterson had spoken out against the black Muslims in the weeks prior to the fight and refused to call him by his Muslim name, preferring to call him Clay instead. Ali made him pay for that oversight by punishing him until the referee stopped the fight in the 12th round.
And that's enough. The referee says that's it, and he's taking Patterson out of the fight.
After the fight, Patterson befriended the new champion and forevermore referred to him as Muhammad Ali. On February 14, 1966, the Louisville Draft Board had reclassified Muhammad's draft status as 1A, thereby making him eligible for military service. Ali had previously been disqualified because of his performance on the military's aptitude test, which gave him an IQ of only 78. Embarrassed by this, the champ said simply, "I said I was the prettiest, not the smartest." But with the war raging in Vietnam, the government had decided to relax its standards, and Ali was now facing the possibility of having to don military fatigues instead of boxing trunks. He heard the news from the media when they began calling his house and asking him questions regarding his political beliefs and his stance on the war in Asia. Frustrated by this invasion of his privacy and confused as to how the situation had arisen, Ali made a statement that would resonate for the rest of his life. "Man, I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." The papers had their headline, and the nation's columnists had a new reason to go after the embattled champion. The first effect of all of this was that his upcoming bout with Ernie Terrell was in danger of being canceled due to the fact that every state that had agreed to host the fight eventually caved into political pressure and withdrew their sanction. The fight was ultimately scheduled to be held in Toronto, but by this time many of the theaters that had been interested in the closed-circuit broadcast rights had pulled out because of the same pressure being exerted on the individual state boxing commissions. To make matters worse, the challenger, Terrell, had decided that he was no longer interested in fighting Ali in light of the fact that his pay was to be a percentage of the profits, and now there seemed to be very little prospect of there being any. This led to the substitution of Canadian heavyweight champion George Chuvalo as Ali's opponent. Chuvalo, a tough fighter whom Rocky Marciano, the only undefeated boxing champion in history, once deemed unknockoutable, went the distance with Muhammad, but lost a unanimous decision to him. Ali's next 3 bouts took place overseas. Fearing that he would not be able to make a living in the United States because of the hostility displayed against him by the public and the press alike, Ali's team decided that they would take their fighter and his substantial earning power to London and Frankfurt. The move made Muhammad Ali something of a folk hero to the citizens of Europe, who felt that he was making the World Heavyweight Championship available to the whole world. For over 5 decades, title fights had been fought primarily on American soil. Ali returned to the U.S. to defend his title against Cleveland Big Cat Williams in Houston, Texas on November 14, 1966. The fight was over quickly, with Williams being completely dominated by Muhammad. In fact, he only managed to hit Ali 3 times in the 3-round bout, which ended mercifully when Williams was knocked out. Ali was next scheduled to defend his title against Ernie Terrell. Unfortunately for the challenger, this time the fight would not be canceled. Terrell made the mistake of constantly referring to Ali as Clay, a move designed to annoy the champion, but one that in his present predicament only served to enrage him. The fight was and is regarded as one of the cruelest exhibitions in boxing history. Muhammad himself would even come to regret it. The champion tortured Terrell for the full 15 rounds, bringing him just short of a knockout and then backing off, only to wallop him again with further combinations, breaking his eye socket and causing his retina to swell. The entire time, Ali kept shouting to the dazed Terrell, "What's my name, chump? Say my name." Ali won the bout in a unanimous decision. His next battle would once again pit him against the might of the United States government. On April 28, 1967, Muhammad Ali showed up at the Houston Induction Center for the U.S. Armed Forces. When the time came for him to take one step forward, signifying his induction, Ali stood quietly and refused. He was taken away, and the consequences of this action were explained to him.
When a registrant refuses this first step, when his name is called, he is quietly removed from the room. He is counseled as to the seriousness of his refusal. He is given the penalties, the maximum legal penalties that this act could result in. If he again refuses, we ask him if he would give a statement that he refuses induction. If he says no, we dismiss him. If he says yes, he writes out a statement in his own handwriting. We witness it, and then we release him. We notify the draft board and make a report to the United States Attorney.
Ali responded that he understood exactly what he was doing, but that he could not, because of his religious beliefs, go into the army and kill people with whom he had no quarrel. It was explained to the champ that in all likelihood he would not serve in a combat role within the army, but would in fact be allowed to fight exhibitions and make personal appearances for the entertainment of the troops. Once again, Ali stood on his principles and stated that he could not serve in any capacity that would give aid to a war that he found to be morally wrong. That's when all hell broke loose. The Army released a press statement to the effect that Muhammad Ali had refused induction into the armed forces, and that the matter was now in the hands of the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Muhammad Ali has just refused to be inducted into the United States Armed Forces. Notification of his refusal is being made to the United States Attorney, the State Director of the Selective Service System, and the local Selective Service Board for whatever action deemed to be appropriate.
Champ, how did they treat you in there?
Down. How did they treat you, Champ?
You get down, please.
Respectable.
To make matters worse, less than an hour after the announcement, the New York State Boxing Commission stripped Ali of his license as well as his title. All other boxing commissions in the country followed suit before Muhammad had even been charged with anything, much less convicted. Muhammad Ali was no longer the heavyweight champion of the world. The title that he had worked so hard to earn for most of his life was gone in an instant. He also had no chance of regaining his title in the ring anytime soon, seeing as how he could no longer fight legally in any state. The overseas prospects were better, but in a move that many saw as vindictive, the U.S. government also stripped him of his passport, thus leaving him without a way to earn a living to support his new wife Belinda or the first of their 4 children.
The right of dissent is tremendously important in this country. We must preserve it. We must even encourage it, because by dissent you produce change, and through change you produce progress. And so therefore, let's have dissent. Let's have change. Let's have progress. That's the American story in the past, and that's what we want for the future.
Ali had unleashed the full power of the establishment against him, and many thought that this was finally the end of Mighty Mouth. They couldn't have been more wrong. Never one to lie down, in the ring or out of it, Muhammad fought back with his greatest weapon, himself. The anger about the Vietnam War had now spread to institutions of higher learning. Because of the controversy surrounding him, colleges all over the country were clamoring to get the now former champ to come and speak at their campuses.
The black man has been brainwashed, and it's time for him to learn something about himself. When he look at television, he see White House cigars, White Swan soap, King White soap, White Rain hair rinse, White Tornado floor wax, White Plus toothpaste. They taught him when he was a little boy that Mary had a little and his feet as white as snow. Then they taught him about Snow White. Then there's the White House. Everything bad is black. So he's been brainwashed. So now he needs to be taught something about himself so he can be proud and quit worrying you and pushing you out of your neighborhoods, quit running your daughter, and quit chasing you out of your schools, and every day you got a headache with this Negro that has been brainwashed by your kind. So now it's our job to re-brainwash him, to teach him that rich dirt is black dirt. Don't feel bad. Strong coffee is black coffee. You understand? You make your wheat integrated. So now he feels proud. Now he's not begging no more. Now he wants to be himself. He's not worrying you no more. So he needs some black history, and he needs some black culture, so he'll know who he is and be proud to be who he is and quit worrying you so much. Any white woman in this audience today, any white man in this audience today, in their right minds, don't want little black boys and little white girls coming around your home, schools, and churches looking to marry your sons and daughters, and in return introducing your grandchildren as little half-brown, kinky-haired Negro children.
And speaking was something that Ali did almost as well as fighting.
We're not seeking to lose our identity in blood mixing and our beautiful black African history. We don't hate you. We don't hate those of you who are white. We just want to stay black. We love my color. I just love myself.
In his speeches, he focused on his ongoing fight with the U.S. government, as well as his feeling that he had been unfairly barred from his profession.
I would like to hear this from you. I would like to hear this from you. And I want the world and the cameras to hear. Who's the heavyweight champion of the world?
The events took on a revival meeting flavor, with Muhammad leading the crowd in a call and response of "Who's the champ?" and the crowd shouting, "You are." He also spoke out fervently on black power and pride, as well as proving that he was perfectly willing to go to prison if that was to be the consequence of defending his religious beliefs.
I said that I'm going to be a man, I'm going to fight it legally. If I lose it, I'm just going to jail.
The battle raged on in the courts, with Ali sticking to his guns just as stubbornly as the government stuck to theirs. Eventually, the whole thing wound up in the U.S. Supreme Court. And in true fashion, Ali emerged the victor by a unanimous decision. The charges were dropped, and Muhammad's long nightmare, one that had plagued him for 7 years, was finally over. Almost. The next thing on his mind was regaining his title. It would be a long road. The last time Ali had fought in a ring was an exhibition bout against former heavyweight champion Rocky Marciano in 1969. Ali made his real comeback to the ring with a fight against Jerry Quarry in Atlanta, Georgia on October 26, 1970. The bout didn't last long. Ali knocked Quarry out in the 3rd round and declared that he now wanted a shot at Joe Frazier, who held what Muhammad thought of as his personal property, the heavyweight title. But it would not be Frazier whom Ali next met in the ring.
Why you no go to the army? I will tell you Monday night in the first clinch. Chicken, you chicken. Beep, 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 chicken, beep. Good deal. Keep talking. Chicken. Keep talking. Now I know you're going to get a whooping. He never should have started talking. Not with Muhammad Ali. Clay. You Clay? I said Muhammad Ali. Clay? You will call it when the fight comes on. Clay? Wait till the fight comes on. Please tell everybody to get to your theaters. I've never had a man that I wanted to whoop so bad.
His next fight was against tough Oscar Bonavena, who managed to keep getting up for the full 15 rounds, taking a great deal of punishment in the process, but also dishing out an amount of abuse that Muhammad had never had to withstand before. It was an ominous precursor. The fight of the century, as it was billed around the world, would take place in Madison Square Garden on March 8, 1971. Finally, Ali was to get his shot against Smokin' Joe Frazier.
Traditionally, I have the real belt, and for Joe Frazier to be a champion, he's got to beat me. See, those eliminations are only imitations. He's not the real champion.
People all over the world were awaiting this bout between two undefeated heavyweight champions.
You're not fighting Oscar Bonavena, you're not fighting Sonny Liston, you fighting Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier. If Joe Frazier whoops me, I'm getting on my hands on my knees, I crawl across the ring, look up to you, say,
The pre-fight drama was almost as much of a battle as the fight itself promised to be, with Ali taunting Frazier in a seemingly never-ending stream of verbal abuse that the more reserved and soft-spoken champion could not match.
Joe Frazier scares you newsmen and all these little people walking around who don't know boxing. But look at my face. I'm the original champion, a veteran of 186 fights, not a sack, 2-time United States Golden Glove champion, 2-time United States National AAU champion, World Olympic champion, 4 years out of training, a 6-week notice, took Frazier's toughest opponents and whooped him easier than he did.
It was the beginning of a feud that would outlast the careers of both fighters. But first, they had to fight it out in the ring. And fight it out they did. In a battle that was not so much boxing as all-out warfare, both men gave the world more than its money's worth in this epic struggle that went all the way to the final bell. Both fighters put their all into the confrontation, and Frazier even scored an embarrassing knockdown of Ali in the 15th round. Frazier won the fight by a unanimous decision, seemingly stopping Muhammad dead in his tracks. Ali was humiliated. Not only had he been unable to live up to his own pre-fight hype, but he had also suffered his first professional loss, and in a title bout, no less. He jumped back into the ring with renewed zeal. In the past, he had been able to rely on his sheer speed to get him out of trouble in the ring. But as age crept up on Ali, he now had to become a more defensive fighter. He fought a series of matches with a diverse array of challengers, handily beating all of them, all the while talking about how he wanted another shot at Joe Frazier. Many people doubted whether Muhammad could be beaten a second time, and Ali was working overtime in an attempt to get Frazier into the ring by calling him names and making himself a thorn in Smokin' Joe's side. For his part, Frazier just wanted Ali to shut his damn mouth. Joe needn't have worried. A young fighter, an ex-Marine, was about to shut it for him. Ken Norton was a virtual unknown when he stepped into the ring against Muhammad Ali on March 31st, 1973. His last fight had been against a journeyman fighter, Charlie Reno, a bout that he had won in 10 rounds. For the Ali fight, Norton was to be paid a meager $50,000 purse. This was $47,000 more than he had made for fighting Reno. Ali took the contest lightly, training for only 2 weeks before meeting what everyone assumed was a severely outclassed opponent. The price he would pay for his nonchalance was disaster. The fight started off with Muhammad using his usual tactic of jabbing at Norton to gauge his weaknesses. But it was clear, even at this early stage, that something in Norton's style was giving Ali problems. Then it happened. In the second round, Ali was caught off guard by a straight right from the challenger, and it snapped his jaw like a twig, breaking the bone cleanly.
How do you tell your jaw drop? It makes a sound, Ken. Here's something pop.
To the former champion's credit, he gamely fought on, his cornermen doing their best to hide the blood that was gushing from his mouth in the fear that the fight would be stopped. For 10 rounds, he fought through the most agonizing pain he had ever endured, but to no avail. Norton was declared the victor at the end of the bout. The loss to Ken Norton was the low point of his long career. Not even the draft board struggle had prepared him for this. In true Ali fashion, he demanded a rematch, with a few months off to train, and to let his jaw, which had been wired shut in a 90-minute surgery following the fight, time to heal. He got his rematch on September 30th, 1973. In a fight that was even then regarded as a razor-thin victory, Ali managed to pull out his world-famous jab and outscore Norton on the judges' cards. He also managed to keep away from Norton's devastating right hand. Having avenged himself on Ken Norton, Muhammad's pride now demanded that he seek revenge against the only other man to beat him professionally, Joe Frazier. Frazier had not had an easy ride since the first fight with Ali. He had lost the heavyweight title to a young fighter by the name of George Foreman earlier in the year. But for Muhammad Ali, the title fight that he wanted so badly would have to wait. It was more important at this time that he dispatch Joe Frazier and regain some of the aura of invincibility that he had lost. The second fight with Frazier took place on January 28, 1974. Once again, the venue was Madison Square Garden in New York City. Once again, the outspoken Ali dominated the pre-fight build-up.
Frazier's just so easy to hit, and he can't back up. He's got no boxing ability whatsoever. He's just like I was imitating. That's all he do. Frazier don't even back up 2 steps. Frazier don't have a left jab. Frazier don't have a right. All Frazier's got is a wild left hook. Frazier has no defense ability. Frazier has no timing, no reflexes, no soul, no rhythm.
When you say no soul, what do you mean?
Soul, just timing and rhythm, like a Freddie Astaire, a ballet dancer, you know, glad.
Unfortunately for Joe Frazier, when it came time to go into the ring, all the playfulness had left Ali. He was now all business, and he had trained hard for this fight in the anticipation of restoring his good name. The long-awaited rematch lacked the drama of their initial meeting in 1971, and there wasn't as much flow to the action as in Ali Frazier 1. Muhammad would smother Joe each time the Philadelphia-based bruiser would get in close. Though the match was somewhat tame by super fight standards, the bout did go the full 15 rounds, and in the end, Ali had to settle for a unanimous decision instead of his hoped-for knockout. His honor avenged, Ali could now focus on the man who held what many considered to be his title, George Foreman. The setting would be Zaire.
I want to rest a few months, and I want to fight George Foreman, knock him out, and truly retire well invested.
The Rumble in the Jungle, as the fight was called, was set to be fought at 3 a.m. on September 25th, 1974.
Stick him, move, stay out of range, be in good shape. He'll retire George Foreman. This man depends on getting this man in the first 1 or 2 rounds. If he don't do that, he's frustrated. Stick him with left jabs and right crosses, tie him up and box him, and you'll retire. I know this man is going to whoop George Foreman, and I'm going to whoop him of all places in Africa, in the Congo, where the Lumumba boys are.
In a spectacle that the world was now becoming accustomed to, Ali proved again that he could out-talk anyone before a fight.
I've never saw George Foreman tired yet. George Foreman lately, haven't heard the man say round 4, round 7, round 9, round 13, last round. Then I want to see, I can't take nothing from George, but I haven't saw George in a good scuffle yet.
Calling George the Mummy and a bully, Muhammad whipped the residents of Zaire into a fervor, leaving the shy Foreman to wonder whether or not he had any supporters in this country of over 40 million. But some in Ali's camp were not so sure of their fighter's chances against the young champion. For the first time, many people were afraid for his safety. They had good reason to be. Though shy and quiet outside the ring, Big George, as he was called, was a formidable boxer. He had devastated Joe Frazier, knocking him down 6 times in only 2 rounds to claim the title in Kingston, Jamaica, only the year before. He had also destroyed Ken Norton in 2 rounds 6 months prior to arriving in Zaire. His hitting power was already legendary. In 40 bouts, he had remained undefeated and had won 37 of those by knockout. The pressure was on Ali as never before. On the night of the bout, the stadium was packed with over 60,000 fans, all of them chanting Ali Boombaye at the top of their voices. The phrase is Swahili for "kill him, Ali." Muhammad had spent the months before the fight preaching to anyone who would listen that he would defeat George Foreman by using his still impressive speed and dancing away from the champion.
When I first started listening, hitting power didn't mean nothing because usually I fix it where they can't find nothing to hit. So I never worry about hitting power. So a man like George that comes out with those big... That's where he throws him, he draws them back. Hey, watch out, here come the left. Here come the right. Get ready, here come another left. That's what I hear when he's throwing them. So when a man, so I don't believe that I'm going to be knocked out and punched around. Experience is why I know I'll win.
The world was about to see a very different Muhammad Ali. 30 seconds into round 2, Ali inexplicably went against the ropes and allowed Foreman to pummel him at will. Many in Ali's corner thought it was the beginning of the end. It was, for George Foreman. Ali had hit upon a strategy that no one had thought of before against the powerful champion. He simply absorbed all the punishment that Foreman could dish out, letting the younger fighter, who had never gone past 8 rounds, tire himself out. As the bell rang to end round 7, Muhammad turned to George and told him, "Now it's my turn." As the 8th round progressed, it looked as if it would be more of the same. Then Ali hit Foreman with a simple combination. Foreman came doggedly onward and let his guard down for an instant. It was all the time Ali needed. With a speed unrivaled to this day, his right hand shot out and caught George squarely, knocking him off balance and dropping him to the canvas. 10 seconds later, Muhammad Ali was once again the heavyweight champion of the world.
I told you, all of my critics, I told you all that I was the greatest of all time when I beat Sunni Islam. I told you today I'm still the greatest of all time. Never again defeat me. Never again say that I'm going to be defeated. Never again make me the underdog until I'm about 50 years old. Right. Then you might get me. I told you I'm the real champion. I told you I'm the champion of the world. All of you bow.
Ali now took on a series of title defenses and was even invited to the White House to meet with the President of the United States, Gerald Ford, and to Graceland to meet with the King of Rock and Roll, Elvis Presley. One title defense was against Chuck the Bayonne Bleeder Wepner, so dubbed because of his unique ability to get cut during fights. Though Wepner managed to knock Ali on the canvas, the fight ended predictably when the referee stopped the bout in the 15th round due to Wepner's condition. Wepner gained immortality because of that fight. He was the inspiration for the film Rocky. Ali also found time to act around this time in a movie about himself, playing himself. The movie was aptly titled The Greatest.
The Greatest.
You are fine.
All right.
All right.
Starring Muhammad Ali.
Are you anywhere as good as you look?
I'm better than I have been, but not as good as I'm going to get.
Come on, I can't wait.
I love it.
Okay.
Ernest Borgnine, Robert Duvall, Lloyd Haynes, Ben Johnson, James Earl Jones, John Marley, Paul Winfield, Dina Merrill.
I want to be there when they bust your guts and split your face.
You'll see those behind the legend. The man behind the myth.
Cassius, you're turning yourself into arrogant.
And you'll understand why he's called the greatest. A story you only think you know.
Muhammad was enjoying his second reign as champion and was just as outspoken as he had always been, only this time the world loved him for it.
Cuz, what's this you're telling me about Joe Louis beating me?
Yes, I believe that Joe Louis would beat you, but he wouldn't give up like some of those bums that you fought.
If Joe Louis hit me once, I'm gonna move. Who bums?
One other thing had changed. Now that Ali was the man at the top, his greatest rival was itching for a chance to knock the title holder off his throne. Now Joe Frazier wanted him. He would get his wish on October 1st, 1975, in a contest that was dubbed by promoter Don King as the Thrilla in Manila. Once again, Ali taunted the hapless Frazier mercilessly. Joe did his talking in the ring.
I got a little gorilla here. This is his conscience. I keep it right in my pocket everywhere I go. Right there. And in one of those short poems, it says there will be a killer and a thriller and a killer when I get the gorilla in Manila. Here's the way he looks when you hit it. All night, that's all you can see. All night in Malaysia. That's all you're going to see. The Philippines, rather. Come on, gorilla. We in Manila.
The fight is considered by many fans to be the greatest boxing exhibition in the sport's long history. For 14 rounds, the two combatants pounded and pummeled each other in the stifling heat of the Philippines. Ali said later that this fight was the closest thing to death that he had ever experienced. Many friends of the champs think that the bout did him irreparable neurological damage due to the over 440 blows that he withstood at the hands of the enraged Joe Frazier. It ended finally in the 14th round when Joe's doctor stopped the fight because both of his eyes were now swollen shut and he could no longer see. When Muhammad realized that he had won the fight and that Frazier was not going to answer the bell for the next round, he collapsed in his corner. There would be no victory lap of the ring that night. After the thriller in Manila, Ali took a well-needed rest and married his third wife, Veronica Porsche. Belinda had left him just a few months before. He then set about the business of defending his title, even though those around him were beginning to wonder whether or not he should leave the fight game for his own good. He fought Ken Norton for a third time, and as always had trouble with the one fighter he was never able to dominate in the ring. He kept his title, but only by a razor-thin margin in the judges' scoring. On February 15, 1978, he once again stepped into the ring as the heavyweight champion of the world. His opponent was a little-known fighter with only 7 professional bouts to his name, Leon Spinks. Most people assumed that this would be just another routine title defense for the finest boxer ever to put on a pair of gloves. They were dead wrong. Ali had once again underestimated his challenger, training lightly and not taking the fight seriously enough. Spinks made him pay with his title. In a unanimous decision, the decidedly un-Ali-like Spinks defeated the man whom he regarded as a personal hero. Muhammad was devastated. He had lost his title in the ring, but he was surprisingly gracious in defeat.
We're all going to lose in life. You're going to lose your wife, you're going to lose your mother, you're going to lose your father. We all have losses in life. One who can really overcome them losses and just keep living and try to come back or be successful. You can't go die because you lose. I did my best, and I trained, I was in shape, and so just lost. Was there a time when you knew you won it? No, it was never a time. When you're in the ring, you never know when you're going to win or what. We're going to tell y'all the truth. I'm his new manager.
Privately, he began training for the rematch that very night, running until he was exhausted and repeating the same phrase over and over. Gotta get my title back. Gotta get my title back. On August 15th, just 6 months after losing his belt to Spinks, Muhammad Ali once again faced him in New Orleans, Louisiana. This time, it was Spinks who was overconfident. After beating his boyhood idol, Spinks had lived the high life and had forgone his usual training regimen. Ali dominated the younger man for 15 rounds, winning a unanimous decision and becoming the first man in the history of boxing to win the heavyweight championship of the world 3 times. 9 months later, he retired from the ring. It lasted all of 1 year. On October 2nd, 1980, Muhammad Ali suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of his former sparring partner, Larry Holmes, who was now reigning as the heavyweight champ. 1 year later, he was similarly dispatched by Trevor Berbick in Nassau. Time had finally caught up with Muhammad Ali. This time, when he announced his retirement, it was for good. But the damage had been done. In 1984, Ali was hospitalized due to what doctors termed mild symptoms of Parkinson's syndrome. Caused by repeated blows to the head, the disorder is marked by an involuntary shaking of the hands and a weakened capacity for speech. Almost 10 years after the thriller in Manila, Joe Frazier had gotten his revenge. Ali was now a shell of his former self. The world accolades were gone. His famous speed and mouth would serve him no more. And his third wife, Veronica, troubled by what was happening to him, divorced him. But he wasn't down for the count just yet. In the late 80s, Ali married his fourth wife, Lonnie, and began the long journey into what he now calls his true calling. Humanitarian, statesman, and promoter of tolerance and peace worldwide.
None of them not boxing. This is my main mission, to do all I can to propagate Islam, make the people conscious of our great leader, the Honorable Warif Dean Muhammad, and the mission. People makes it think that you say Muslim and think of guerrillas, bombs, hostages, Khomeini, Gaddafi, and this is a peaceful religion. Islam means peace. Greetings Assalamu alaikum is peace. And so this is what I want to promote.
The former holder of the heavyweight crown now spends 200 days a year traveling the four corners of the world he once reigned over. Only this time, it is to the hospitals and orphanages, to the mosques and homes for the disenfranchised. He has become their champion and their voice, working tirelessly to uplift those whom the world has overlooked. In 1996, in Atlanta, Georgia, a stunned and overjoyed world watched with a tinge of sadness as the man who had danced like a butterfly and stung like a bee lifted the Olympic flame in his once mighty fist and ignited the flame that would burn for the duration of the Games. A crowd of over 30,000 live fans chanted his name as he stood on a basketball court at those Games to receive a replacement gold medal for the one he had discarded so many years before. With a trembling hand, the fighter who had scorned so much of the establishment, the champion who had been hated and loved by millions, the man who had started his journey so long ago and had eschewed many of the values he now embraced, lifted his new gold medal to his lips and kissed it. That said more than he ever had in his entire life.